A massive enforcer storms into a neighborhood bar, targeting a terrified young dishwasher who can't pay his protection money. The 280-pound thug with prison tattoos starts beating the kid, pouring beer on him while demanding cash for his sick mother's medicine. But the quiet maintenance worker mopping floors in the corner isn't just another customer. This is Jackie Chan himself. The bully has no idea he just assaulted an innocent worker in front of a man who spent 50 years turning ordinary objects into devastating weapons. While the enforcer threatens to break the young man's arm, the martial arts legend sets down his mop and approaches with that unmistakable bouncing walk. The terrified dishwasher recognizes his savior and steps back, knowing justice is about to be served in the most creative way possible. The thug's crew keeps laughing, thinking they're witnessing another easy shakedown. But they're actually about to learn why you never corner Jackie Chan in a room full of bar stools and pool cues. What happens when a street enforcer faces off against the master of improvised combat? Will the bully survive, discovering that some legends never retire? What happened next would terrorize the thug for the rest of his pathetic existence. Before we jump back and tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The mop slapped against the worn wooden floor of Murphy's Corner Bar with a rhythmic precision that spoke of 3 months of practice. Jack Chan moved with surprising grace for a 70-year-old man, his slight frame navigating between tables where construction workers nursed cheap beers and cab drivers counted crumpled bills from their day's earnings. Table 6 wobbling. Again, Stella Murphy called from behind the bar, her Irish accent cutting through the dinner crowd's chatter. The red-haired owner had inherited more than just the establishment from her father. She'd inherited his ability to spot trouble before it walked through the door. Jack nodded silently, retrieving a worn toolbox from behind the kitchen. His weathered hands, surprisingly steady despite his age, made quick work of the loose leg. Frank DeMarco, a regular who'd been coming here since the Carter administration, watched with approval. That old guy's been here 3 months, barely says a word. Frank told his drinking buddy. Stella says he's the best handyman she's ever had. The dinner crowd represented the neighborhood's melting pot. Second-generation Irish like Stella mixing with recent immigrants from Guatemala and Honduras who gathered at corner tables, speaking in rapid Spanish about construction jobs and overtime hours. Everyone seemed to belong except Jack, who remained invisible despite being everywhere, fixing what was broken and anticipating what might break next. Jack hummed quietly while adjusting the table, a tune from his Hong Kong childhood that nobody would recognize. His dark eyes, alert despite the humble work clothes and stooped posture, took in everything. The nervous glances from the young Latino workers, the way conversations lowered when certain topics arose, the fear that seemed to settle over the bar like smoke whenever protection money was mentioned. Finishing with the table, Jack moved toward the back room to clock out. But he paused near the kitchen when Stella's voice, tight with stress, carried from her office phone call. "I can't keep paying these increases," she was saying. "It's bleeding me dry, and for what? Protection from who?" Jack's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, concern flickering across his weathered features. He'd seen this before, in different cities, different languages, but always the same story. Someone was squeezing the honest people, and honest people were too scared to fight back. He continued to the back room without saying anything, hanging up his work coat with the same methodical care he brought to everything else. But his thoughtful expression suggested that Jack Chan was a man who noticed much more than he revealed. The next evening brought the same crowd, but Miguel Sandoval couldn't shake the anxiety that had been building all week. The 22-year-old dishwasher's hands trembled as he scrubbed plates in the kitchen, his dark eyes darting toward the front door every few minutes like a prey animal sensing predators. The dinner rush was heavier tonight, with a crew of Latino construction workers, fresh from a roofing job, their work boots still dusty, and their voices carrying the exhaustion of 12-hour days. Miguel should have felt safer with more of his people around, but instead, the crowd made him feel exposed. The glass slipped from his soapy fingers, shattering against the concrete floor. "Damn it, Miguel," Stella snapped from the pass-through window. "That's the third one this week." Jack appeared beside him almost instantly, kneeling to help gather the larger pieces while Miguel scrambled for the smaller fragments. The older man's movements were fluid, efficient, and somehow calming. "Easy, young man," Jack said quietly in accented English, his voice carrying unexpected warmth. "Accidents happen to everyone." Miguel managed a grateful nod, but his relief was short-lived. The front door didn't just open. It slammed back against the wall with a sound like a gunshot. The conversation in the bar died as if someone had unplugged a jukebox. Vincent Kozlov filled the doorway like a nightmare given form. 6'4" and carrying nearly 300 pounds of muscle and malice, he surveyed the room with the cold calculation of a predator selecting prey. Prison tattoos crawled up his thick neck, and his small, dark eyes missed nothing. Two smaller but equally dangerous men flanked him. Tony Marconi, whose weasel-like features had earned him his nickname, and Alexei Petrov, whose silence was more menacing than any threat. The bar's atmosphere shifted instantly. Workers found sudden interest in their beer bottles. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Even Stella's usual defiance seemed to wither under Vincent's presence. Vincent's gaze swept the room methodically before settling on the kitchen pass-through, where Miguel's pale face was visible through the service window. "There's my boy," Vincent said, his voice carrying mock affection that fooled no one. He smiled, revealing teeth that belonged on a shark. "Stella, sweetheart, tell my friend Miguel to come out here. We need to have a little chat." Miguel's face went ashen. Jack, still kneeling beside the broken glass, positioned himself where he could observe everything while appearing to focus solely on cleaning up the mess. Miguel emerged from the kitchen like a condemned man walking to the gallows, his apron still damp from dishwater, his hands shaking as he wiped them dry. Vincent's massive arm draped around the young man's shoulders in what might have looked friendly to an outsider, but the grip was clearly possessive, threatening. "Let's sit down, amigo," Vincent said, guiding Miguel toward a table near the pool. Tables. The location was strategic, away from the main crowd, but visible to everyone, a public demonstration of power. Tony and Alexei positioned themselves to block potential escape routes, their movements coordinated with practiced efficiency. Vincent ordered 3 beers from a waitress who couldn't meet his eyes, then settled his bulk into a chair that creaked ominously under his weight. His demeanor was almost jovial as he began the ritual humiliation. "Miguel, my friend, we had an agreement," Vincent said, his voice carrying across the silent bar. "500 every month keeps your family safe, keeps this neighborhood peaceful. Simple business arrangement, yes?" Miguel's voice came out as barely a whisper. "My hours got cut at the construction site. I only have 200 this week, but I can get the rest." The backhand came without warning, a casual slap that sent Miguel sprawling from his chair onto the sticky floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the silent bar. "You think I'm running a charity?" Vincent's mask of friendliness dropped instantly, revealing the monster beneath. "You think your problems are my problems?" Patrons began leaving, dropping money on tables and heading for the door without looking back. Stella started forward, but Tony stepped into her path, shaking his head slowly. Vincent hauled Miguel up by his shirt and slammed him against the jukebox. The impact triggered the machine's coin mechanism, and Sinatra's voice began crooning "My Way" with bitter irony. "Your mama's working at that laundromat on Northern Boulevard, right?" Vincent's voice was conversational again, which somehow made it more terrifying. "Pretty lady. Elena, isn't it? Be a real shame if something happened to her." Tears streamed down Miguel's face as he begged. "Please, she needs medicine. I'm trying to bring my sister Rosa here legally, but the paperwork costs. I don't care about your family problems," Vincent interrupted, wrapping one massive hand around Miguel's throat. The young man's feet left the ground as Vincent lifted him effortlessly. "Here's what's going to happen. You give me everything in your wallet right now. Then you call your mama and tell her she owes me the rest." In the corner, Jack had stopped mopping. His posture shifted subtly from passive observer to something else entirely, something coiled and ready, like a spring under tension. "And if I don't get my money by Friday," Vincent continued, his grip tightening around Miguel's throat, "your family's going to learn what happens to people who don't pay their debts." "Excuse me, friend. I think that's enough." The voice cut through, the tension like a blade, carrying an unmistakable Hong Kong accent and surprising authority for someone so small. Vincent didn't even look at first, assuming he could intimidate another patron with a glare, but when he turned, Something in the maintenance worker's posture made him hesitate. The small Asian man was walking toward them with an unusual gait, almost bouncing, like a dancer or martial artist. There was something about the way he moved that spoke of controlled power, of coiled springs ready to release. Stella's eyes widened first, recognition dawning across her face. Jesus Christ. Jackie Chan. The name rippled through the remaining patrons like electricity. Workers who'd been heading for the door stopped mid-step. The construction crew exchanged glances of disbelief and growing excitement. Jackie approached, with his hands visible and empty, wearing his famous disarming smile. "Hello, everyone. I'm Jackie," he said with characteristic humility. "I work here now. I fix broken things. And right now, I think something is broken here." His tone was friendly but firm as he positioned himself between Vincent and Miguel without appearing threatening. The young dishwasher dropped to the floor, gasping and clutching his throat. Vincent released his grip, shock giving way to rage. "What the hell is this? Some washed-up movie star thinks he's gonna play hero." Jackie's smile never wavered, but his stance shifted almost imperceptibly. "You know, in my movies, the bad guys usually give me 3 chances before the fighting starts. This looks like chance number 2 to me." Tony and Alexei moved to flank Jackie, but he seemed unconcerned, even making conversation. "Nice tattoo," he said to Tony, nodding at the dragon inked across the man's forearm. "That was done in San Quentin, right? I worked with a consultant there once. Very artistic place." Vincent's fury built like pressure in a boiler. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. He was Vincent Kozlov, the enforcer who made grown men wet themselves with fear. And some 70-year-old actor was treating him like a joke. "Old man," Vincent growled, squaring off against Jackie, who barely came up to his chest. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life. I'm gonna enjoy breaking every bone in your body." Jackie sighed and began removing his work gloves with deliberate slowness. "I was really hoping we could talk this out," he said, looking around at the freshly mopped floors. "I just cleaned these floors." The confrontation hung in the air like the moment before thunder, 2 very different kinds of power about to collide in spectacular fashion. Vincent's massive right hook could have decapitated a normal man, but Jackie simply wasn't there anymore. He'd flowed to Vincent's left like water, tapping the giant gently on the shoulder. "You're very strong," Jackie observed with genuine appreciation, "but strength without control is just violence." What followed was vintage Jackie Chan choreography adapted for reality. Vincent charged like an enraged bull, but Jackie used the bar's geography against him, sliding under tables, bouncing off walls, turning every piece of furniture into either a weapon or a shield. Tony rushed from behind, but Jackie redirected Vincent's momentum, sending the giant crashing into his lieutenant. Both men went down in a tangle of limbs and curses while Sinatra continued crooning from the jukebox. "In Hong Kong, we learned to use everything," Jackie explained conversationally, hefting a pool cue as Alexei drew a knife. "Even this can be a weapon if you know how." The cue became a blur of motion, disarming Alexei and somehow using the man's own shoelaces to tie him to a bar stool. Jackie moved with the fluid grace of a dancer, each motion serving multiple purposes: defense, attack, and protection of bystanders, all woven together seamlessly. When Vincent recovered and charged again, Jackie employed the bar's ceiling fan and railing system in a maneuver that belonged in a physics textbook. The spinning kick that resulted sent the enforcer crashing through a table, scattering chairs, and sending beer bottles flying. "Sorry about the damage, Stella," Jackie called out while dodging Tony's desperate tackle. The fight lasted 3 minutes, but felt like an eternity. When the dust settled, Vincent lay unconscious among broken furniture. Tony was zip-tied with electrical cord Jackie had found behind the bar, and Alexei remained secured to his stool, looking dazed and confused. Jackie helped Miguel to his feet, checking his injuries with practiced hands. "You're going to be fine, young man. Just some bruises." He handed the trembling dishwasher a business card. "You call me if anyone bothers you again." Jackie moved with surprising medical knowledge, retrieving a first aid kit from behind the bar and tending to Miguel's injuries. His gentle touch and soft Spanish surprised everyone. This wasn't just a movie star, but someone with real training and genuine compassion. "Donde está tu familia?" Jackie asked, cleaning Miguel's split lip with professional efficiency. My Aunt Elena. She cleans offices, Miguel whispered, still shaking. My sister Rosa is still in Guatemala. I'm trying to bring her here legally. But the paperwork costs so much money. As Vincent and his men slowly regained consciousness, Jackie made an unexpected choice. Instead of calling police, he helped Vincent to his feet and spoke with startling gentleness. I don't want to hurt anyone, Jackie said, supporting the groggy enforcer. I just want everyone to be safe. You understand? Vincent nodded grudgingly, blood trickling from his nose. Jackie continued cleaning the man's wounds, even providing ice for his bruises. Good. Then we have an understanding. No one bothers Miguel or anyone else in this neighborhood. And you tell your boss that Jackie Chan is watching now. The remaining patrons watched in amazement as Jackie demonstrated the same care for his defeated enemies that he'd shown for Miguel. This wasn't Hollywood vengeance. This was something deeper, more principled. Stella stared at her maintenance worker with new understanding. All this time you were. I'm just a man who fixes broken things, Jackie said simply, helping Tony to his feet as the three thugs limped toward the door. Vincent turned back, his humiliation transformed into cold fury. This isn't over, Chan. You think you know what you're dealing with, but you don't have a clue. You just signed that kid's death warrant. And yours. The threat hung heavy in the air as they left. For the first time, Jackie's expression grew serious. He'd recognized something in Vincent's voice. This wasn't random street crime. This was organized, systematic, and much larger than one bar's protection racket. Miguel looked up at Jackie with a mixture of gratitude and terror. Mr. Chan, what? If they come back? Jackie's jaw set with quiet determination. Then we'll be ready. By Thursday morning, word had spread through the immigrant community like wildfire. Miguel arrived early to help Stella repair the previous night's damage. But he wasn't alone. A steady stream of people approached Murphy's bar, each carrying similar stories of systematic extortion. Maria Santos, who ran a food truck on Roosevelt Avenue, showed Jackie photographs of her vandalized equipment. They wanted $500 a month for permits, she explained in accented English. When I couldn't pay, they destroyed my generator. David Kim's dry cleaning business had suffered worse. His shop windows were covered with plywood after he'd refused to pay protection money. They said next time it would be my family, he told Jackie, his hands shaking as he displayed the photos. But it was Elena Varga who broke Jackie's heart. The elderly woman who cleaned office buildings throughout Queens collapsed into tears as she described her grandson's beating. Luis is only 16, she sobbed. They broke his arm because I didn't have enough money. Each story revealed the same pattern: vulnerable immigrants targeted by Vincent's crew, systematic intimidation backed by escalating violence. Jackie realized this wasn't random crime. It was an organized operation preying on people too afraid to call police due to their immigration status. That by afternoon, Murphy's bar had become an impromptu community center. Jackie's natural warmth drew people out, and his ability to speak multiple languages made him a bridge between cultures. He remembered everyone's names, asked about their families, and listened with genuine compassion. They target us because they think we're alone, Maria observed, watching Jackie comfort Elena. But we're not alone anymore. As evening approached, Jackie stepped outside to make a call he hadn't made in years. Patricia? It's Jackie. Yes, Jackie Chan. I need your help. I think I've stumbled into something big. Detective Patricia Walsh, his old friend from police consultant days, agreed to meet him that night. Jackie looked out at the neighborhood he'd committed to protecting, understanding that his retirement from action was officially over. The community had found its protector, and the protector had found his purpose: the all-night diner in Long Island. City felt like neutral ground when Jackie met Detective Patricia Walsh at 10:30 p.m. Patricia, a tough Irish-American cop with 20 years in organized crime, studied her old friend with mixture of affection and concern. You look good for a man who just fought 3 thugs, she said, sliding into the booth across from him. Jackie described the systematic extortion he'd discovered, and Patricia's expression grew increasingly grim. She pulled out a thick file folder, her movements deliberate and heavy with implications. Jackie, what you've stumbled into is much worse than protection rackets, she said, opening the folder to reveal surveillance photos and organizational charts. We've been tracking a human trafficking operation for 2 years. The protection money is just the visible tip. The photographs showed Vincent meeting with well-dressed men in expensive cars, trucks moving between warehouse facilities at night, and desperate faces pressed against barred windows. Patricia's voice carried the weight of too many unsolved cases. When immigrants can't pay, they're forced into slave labor. Young women who resist are sold into sexual slavery. The operation is run by Dmitry Volkov, a Russian crime boss who targets undocumented immigrants because they won't report crimes. Jackie studied the surveillance photos, his trained eye noting details that others might miss. This Vincent, he's not the boss. Just muscle. The real operation involves corrupt immigration lawyers, dirty cops, and legitimate businesses as fronts. They've created a pipeline that generates millions annually. Patricia's next words hit like physical blows. Miguel's sister Rosa, she didn't disappear crossing the border. She was trafficked after trying to escape 2 weeks ago. She showed Jackie a photograph of a beautiful 19-year-old girl who looked exactly like Miguel. If she's still alive, she's somewhere in the city. But Jackie, this isn't like your movies. These people will kill without hesitation. Jackie stared at Rosa's photo, seeing Miguel's eyes in her face, Elena's determined chin in her jawline. The stakes had just become personal. They already know I'm involved, Jackie said quietly. Vincent made that clear. He stood, his jaw set with absolute determination. Patricia, I need everything you have on this operation. Every location, every name, every detail. It's time to bring these people down. Friday morning's warehouse in Long Island City had been transformed into a tactical operations center. Maps covered every wall, surveillance photos connected by red string like a spider web of corruption. Patricia introduced Jackie to Detective Luis Morales, her partner who specialized in organized crime's deadliest elements. 5 warehouse facilities. Across Queens and Brooklyn, Luis explained, pointing to marked locations. Atlantic Labor Solutions serves as their front company, complete with corporate offices in Midtown. They've got 3 immigration lawyers creating false documentation and at least 4 NYPD officers on payroll. Jackie studied surveillance footage showing trucks moving between warehouses under cover of darkness, always with armed escorts. The victims were rotated every few days, preventing them from becoming familiar with locations or forming escape plans. Standard police tactics won't work, Patricia said. By the time we organize raids, they'll have moved everyone and destroyed evidence. Jackie's approach differed fundamentally from law enforcement thinking. While they planned arrests and prosecutions, he focused on minimizing harm to victims and using surprise effectively. In my movies, I always scout locations first, Jackie said, examining building layouts Patricia had obtained. Can you give me architectural plans for these warehouses? His methodology was surgical: gather intelligence on each facility, identify where Rosa might be held, then execute coordinated rescues before Volkov could react. Every move would be calculated to protect innocent lives while systematically dismantling the operation. The victims are the priority, Jackie emphasized. Arrests mean nothing if people die in the process. Patricia's phone rang urgently. Her face went pale as she listened. Jackie, they found another body in the East River. Young Latino woman, early 20s. The unspoken fear hung between them like a knife. It might be Rosa. Jackie's resolve crystallized into diamond-hard determination. We're not waiting for more intelligence. Tonight, I'm going to see what's in that first warehouse. The rescue mission would begin immediately, with or without official sanction. Sunset Park's warehouse complex squatted in darkness at 11:45 p.m., surrounded by chain-link fences and patrolled by lazy guards who'd grown overconfident. Jackie approached like a shadow, moving with fluid stealth while Patricia and Luis monitored from 2 blocks away through earpiece communication. What began as reconnaissance became an emergency rescue when Jackie discovered the horrific reality. Inside, 12 people were imprisoned in converted shipping containers with minimal ventilation, including 3 teenagers who couldn't be older than Rosa. The guards were unprofessional, more concerned with their card game than perimeter security. Jackie used this carelessness against them, employing cargo straps, forklifts, and loading equipment in a systematic takedown that neutralized 8 armed men without raising alarms. His fighting style had evolved with age, less athleticism, more intelligence and planning. Every movement served multiple purposes: disabling threats, protecting victims, and maintaining stealth. The warehouse became his three-dimensional chessboard. "Please, don't hurt us," whispered a teenage girl in Spanish when Jackie opened the first container. "I'm here to help," Jackie replied gently, his limited Spanish conveying more through tone than words. "You're safe now." The victims were from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, held for weeks in conditions that violated every human rights standard. They spoke frantically about the Russian and the boats, revealing fragments of the larger operation. Carmen, one of the teenagers, grabbed Jackie's arm as he led them to safety. "Rosa Sandoval, I know her. She was here 2 days ago, but they took her to the special place because she kept fighting. They said she was going on a boat." Jackie's blood ran cold. Patricia's voice crackled through his earpiece. "Jackie, we've got company coming. 3 cars, moving fast." The rescue had been discovered. Time was running out, and Rosa was still somewhere in the city, marked for death or worse. Jackie guided the rescued victims toward the extraction point, knowing this small victory might have cost them their only chance to save Miguel's sister. Saturday morning's emergency regrouping at 3:30 a.m. felt like a funeral. 12 rescued victims were being processed by immigration services, but Rosa's absence haunted everyone. Carmen provided crucial intelligence through tears, describing the trafficking network's brutal hierarchy and the special place where resistant victims disappeared. Jackie and the tactical team raced to Miguel's Astoria apartment, but arrived to find splintered doors and overturned furniture. Miguel was gone, taken in retaliation for the warehouse raid. Elena Varga cowered in Miguel's bedroom closet, emerging slowly when she recognized Jackie's voice. The elderly woman's revelation shattered everyone's assumptions about the family structure. "I'm not Miguel's mother," Elena confessed through tears. "I'm his aunt. His real parents died 3 years ago in a car accident while trying to reach America. Miguel and Rosa have been taking care of each other since they were children." She showed Jackie photographs of the siblings as young children, their faces bright with hope despite poverty. "They only have each other now. Miguel worked so hard because he promised their dying mother he would protect Rosa." Patricia's police contacts revealed the trafficking ring's rapid adaptation. Volkov knew about Jackie's involvement and was moving assets faster than law enforcement could track. 3 corrupt officers had disappeared underground, suggesting the organization was preparing for war. "They're not just criminals," Patricia explained grimly. "They're a military operation with intelligence networks and contingency plans." Elena gripped Jackie's hands with surprising strength. "You find them, Mr. Chan. You find my children and bring them home. They've suffered enough." Dawn broke over Queens as Jackie stared at the city skyline, understanding that Volkov now saw him as a direct threat requiring elimination. Patricia's phone rang with news that increased urgency exponentially. "Another warehouse was emptied last night," she reported. "We found evidence that victims are being moved to a final location for overseas transport." The end game was beginning, and time was running out for Rosa and Miguel. Saturday afternoon's investigation revealed corruption reaching into the highest levels of city government. Working from Patricia's operations center, the team mapped connections that explained how Volkov's organization had operated undetected for years. Immigration lawyer Richard Steinberg had created an elaborate false documentation system, making trafficked victims appear to be voluntary workers while keeping them in debt bondage. NYPD Lieutenant Frank Morrison provided police protection and advance warning about raids. Most shocking, City Councilman Robert Hayes accepted campaign donations from Atlantic Labor Solutions while voting against immigration enforcement that would expose the trafficking pipeline. "This isn't just local crime," Patricia explained, showing Jackie surveillance footage spanning 6 months. "They're connected to trafficking networks from Eastern Europe to Central America." Rosa and Miguel are 2 victims in a pipeline processing hundreds annually. Luis discovered Rosa's specific danger. She'd witnessed Vincent murder another trafficking victim who refused to cooperate. She's not just a victim anymore. She's a witness who could destroy the entire operation. They can't let her live. Maritime police confirmed Jackie's worst fears. 3 boats were scheduled to leave New York Harbor within 48 hours, all connected to Volkov's operation. If Rosa and Miguel were being shipped overseas, they had less than 2 days to find them. The Boats represent the final stage, Patricia said, studying harbor maps. Once victims leave American waters, they disappear forever into international trafficking networks. Jackie examined the tactical situation with growing urgency. Traditional law enforcement would require weeks of coordination, search warrants, and bureaucratic approval. They didn't have weeks, they barely had hours. Tomorrow night, we hit them everywhere at once, Jackie declared, his mind already working on infiltration strategies. No more waiting for perfect intelligence, no more bureaucratic delays. Patricia nodded grimly. It's our only chance. But Jackie, if we're wrong about their location, then Rosa and Miguel die, and Volkov escapes to rebuild elsewhere, Jackie finished. We won't be wrong. We can't afford to be. The final assault would require everything Jackie had learned about courage, tactics, and the power of community working together against impossible odds. Sunday morning brought an unexpected sight at Murphy's bar. Elena waited with nearly 30 members of the immigrant community, their faces showing fear mixed with steely determination. Word of Miguel's kidnapping had spread, transforming individual terror into collective resolve. Elena revealed the deeper truth she'd hidden from everyone, including Miguel. Rosa wasn't just immigrating. She was fleeing Guatemala because she witnessed a mass murder by the same organization that holds her now. This trafficking ring is international, connecting Central America to Eastern Europe. The revelation explained everything. Why they'd kept Rosa alive instead of killing her immediately. Why the organization seemed so well informed about her movements. Why her testimony could expose not just Volkov's operation, but an entire global pipeline. Rosa's testimony could bring down criminals in 3 countries, Elena continued. That's why they need to extract information about what she knows and who she might have told. The immigrant community had been quietly organizing since Thursday's confrontation. Maria Santos had mapped patrol routes used by Volkov's men. David, Kim identified trustworthy police officers versus likely corrupt ones. They'd created an intelligence network rivaling law enforcement resources. We clean their offices, serve their food, fix their cars, Maria explained. They think we're invisible, but we see everything. Elena produced a detailed map showing locations where she'd observed suspicious activity during late-night cleaning shifts. Her information revealed patterns that even police surveillance had missed. I clean offices all over the city, Elena said. These men think cleaning ladies are invisible. As the community meeting concluded, Elena pulled Jackie aside privately. There's something else about Rosa. She's pregnant, 3 months. If these monsters ship her overseas, she couldn't finish the sentence, but Jackie understood. Rosa wasn't just Miguel's sister anymore. She was carrying the next generation of their family. Jackie's jaw tightened with renewed determination. We're going to find her, Elena. I promise you that. The stakes had just become unbearably personal. Sunday evening's coordinated assault on the Long Island City warehouse represented Jackie's most elaborate action sequence yet. Patricia coordinated federal agents and trusted NYPD units, while Luis managed communications with immigrant community volunteers serving as lookouts and emergency responders. The facility was heavily fortified, 20 armed guards, sophisticated alarm systems, multiple escape routes, and defensive positions that suggested military planning. Jackie turned the warehouse into a 3-dimensional battlefield, using construction equipment, shipping containers, and the building's own crane system as weapons. His tactical evolution was evident in every move. The 70-year-old Jackie fought smarter, not harder, employing technology and team coordination rather than relying solely on physical ability. He used the crane to swing between levels, forklifts as shields and projectiles, and cargo nets to create ingenious traps. When guards tried cornering him, Jackie employed the building's sprinkler system and electrical panels to create chaos and confusion. The sequence culminated with him using a shipping container as a massive projectile to disable a truck full of reinforcements. This is like conducting an orchestra, Jackie told himself, orchestrating mayhem with scientific precision. Inside the warehouse, they found 15 victims from various countries, including Miguel. The emotional reunion between Miguel and Elena provided brief triumph amid the chaos, but Jackie's trained instincts detected something wrong. Rosa isn't here, Miguel gasped through his injuries. They moved her yesterday to somewhere they called the special place. Patricia approached with grim news from interrogated guards. Jackie, it was a decoy operation. The main trafficking hub is somewhere else, and they moved high-value targets before we arrived. The apparent victory turned hollow as reality struck. They'd been outmaneuvered by Volkov's intelligence network, led into attacking a secondary target while the real operation continued elsewhere. Rosa was still missing, still in danger, and now Volkov knew exactly how dangerous Jackie could be. The crime boss would be prepared for their next move. Sunday night's hollow victory at the warehouse left everyone devastated. Miguel, despite his injuries, was frantic about Rosa's continued absence. Jackie sat with him in the ambulance, both men crushed by their failure to rescue the young woman who meant everything to them. Interrogation of captured guards revealed the cruel truth. The warehouse had been deliberately sacrificed as misdirection. While law enforcement focused on the obvious target, Volkov moved his most valuable assets to a secure facility that didn't appear on any intelligence maps. They knew we were coming, Patricia said, reviewing the operations timeline. Someone leaked information about our plans. The guards revealed fragments of disturbing intelligence. Detective Walsh had been asking questions about Jackie's involvement earlier that day, and that information had somehow reached Volkov's organization. The trafficking ring had intelligence sources inside law enforcement. Jackie's phone rang, cutting through their post-operation analysis. Vincent's voice carried mock sympathy and genuine malice. Enjoying your little victory, Chan? While you were playing hero at the warehouse, we picked up your cop friend. She's keeping Rosa company now. Jackie's blood ran cold as Vincent continued. With calculated cruelty. You want them back? Come alone to the address I'm texting you. 1 hour, or they both die. Miguel overheard the conversation and begged to accompany Jackie, but the action star refused with gentle firmness. This is exactly what they want, to use your love for Rosa against you. I won't let them hurt anyone else. Elena arrived, having followed the ambulances from Murphy's bar. Jackie had to tell her that Rosa was still missing, still in mortal danger, still beyond their reach. The text message arrived with a Staten Island address, a waterfront location absent from police surveillance lists. Patricia's phone went straight to voicemail, confirming her capture. Jackie looked at Miguel, Elena, and the rescued victims, knowing he must choose between his own life and theirs. Luis volunteered backup, but Jackie shook his head. If I'm not alone, they'll kill them both. This ends with me. Monday morning's approach to the Staten Island compound at 12:45 a.m. felt like walking into hell. The fortress-like facility squatted on the waterfront behind high walls, security cameras, and armed guards who watched Jackie's solitary approach with professional alertness. Jackie walked through the front gate with hands visible, apparently surrendering. Guards searched him thoroughly, removing potential weapons, before escorting him into the main building. The compound's interior revealed Volkov's operation's true scope: administrative offices managing international trafficking, holding areas for victims, and sophisticated communications equipment coordinating global criminal activities. Dmitry Volkov defied Jackie's expectations. Instead of a stereotypical thug, he was an educated businessman in his 50s who spoke perfect English and managed criminal enterprise like corporate management. The great Jackie Chan. Volkov greeted him with mock respect. I've been looking forward to meeting you. I'm actually a fan, such creative use of props and environment. Volkov's true intention emerged gradually. He didn't want to kill Jackie, but to use him. The crime boss had been building a legitimate business empire as cover for trafficking operations. Having Jackie Chan endorse his employment services company would provide perfect credibility. Think of it as your final performance, Volkov explained smoothly. Helping immigrants find work in America. Of course, you won't mention the specific terms of their employment. Surveillance monitors displayed Rosa and Detective Walsh in separate holding cells. Both women were alive, but clearly prisoners, their defiant expressions showing unbroken spirits despite captivity. Here's how this works, Mr. Chan. Volkov continued with business-like efficiency. You sign a contract to be our spokesman, appear at publicity events, and your friends go free. Refuse, and they disappear permanently into our overseas network. Jackie stared at the monitors, seeing Rosa's courage even in captivity, recognizing Patricia's tactical mind working on escape plans. "I'll need to see them first," Jackie said carefully, "to make sure they're unharmed." Volkov smiled coldly, confident in his control over the situation. "I was hoping you'd say that." Volkov led Jackie through the compound toward the holding area, flanked by Vincent and 6 armed men. The crime boss maintained his civilized facade while describing his business philosophy with chilling casualness. "Violence is inefficient, Mr. Chan," Volkov explained as they walked past administrative offices where well-dressed criminals managed human misery like quarterly reports. "Fear and leverage are much more reliable tools for sustainable business operations." Jackie was brought to Rosa's cell first. The 19-year-old woman sat defiantly despite her circumstances, and when she saw Jackie, recognition flashed across her face. She immediately began speaking rapid Spanish, ostensibly greeting him, but actually providing crucial intelligence. "The compound has 4 main buildings," she whispered in Spanish. "Guard rotations every 2 hours. At least 20 other prisoners in the eastern building. 3 boats at the dock, loading tonight." Jackie responded in Spanish, telling her to stay ready but remain calm. Vincent watched suspiciously but couldn't understand their conversation. Volkov, however, observed with amused interest, clearly comprehending every word. "Your Spanish is improving, Mr. Chan," the crime boss noted. "Rosa has been quite informative about compound security. Such a clever girl." The meeting with Detective Walsh revealed her worst condition, beaten during capture but maintaining her tactical mind. She whispered urgently to Jackie that she'd managed to send a coded message to Luis before being captured. Federal backup should arrive within the hour. However, she warned that Volkov had multiple escape routes prepared and would execute all hostages if he felt cornered. "He's got boats ready and international contacts. If this goes wrong, everyone dies." As they returned to the main office, Jackie memorized everything: guard positions, weapon locations, structural weaknesses, potential escape routes. He noticed the compound's loading dock where trucks and boats were being prepared for the final trafficking shipment. "So, Mr. Chan," Volkov said, settling behind his desk with the contract between them, "are you ready to join our organization?" Jackie sat across from Volkov in the crime boss's office, with formal endorsement contracts spread across the mahogany desk. Security cameras recorded everything as Volkov prepared to document Jackie's apparent capitulation for future blackmail purposes. "This is a standard celebrity endorsement deal, Mr. Chan," Volkov said smoothly. "Very similar to your previous commercial work with legitimate companies, I'm sure." As Jackie reached for the pen, he caught a reflection in the office window: Luis and a federal tactical team positioned outside the compound walls. Jackie realized his surrender was actually part of an elaborate plan he'd coordinated with law enforcement during the drive to Staten Island. While he'd kept Volkov distracted and gathered intelligence on the compound's layout, the immigrant community had worked with Patricia's police contacts to surround the facility. Elena's cleaning service had provided access to city planning offices where she'd obtained the compound's original blueprints. David Kim's dry cleaning business became the perfect cover for federal agents to establish surveillance positions. Maria Santos's food truck served as a mobile command center parked just outside the compound's perimeter. The entire immigrant community had created a rescue operation rivaling any professional law enforcement effort that Jackie's phone, which guards assumed was disabled, had actually been transmitting location data and audio to Luis throughout his captivity. Every conversation with Volkov, every layout detail, every guard position had been relayed to the tactical team. "You know, Mr. Volkov," Jackie said conversationally, setting down the pen, "I've made a lot of movies about fighting corruption. The good guys always win in the end." Alarms began blaring throughout the compound as federal agents breached the perimeter walls. Volkov's confident expression transformed into rage as he realized he'd been completely outplayed by his supposed victim. The crime boss reached desperately for a panic button that would trigger explosive charges designed to destroy evidence and eliminate witnesses. Jackie's relaxed posture instantly transformed into coiled readiness. "I really hoped we could do this the easy way." The moment Volkov lunged for the panic button, Jackie exploded into action. Despite being disarmed, he transformed the office into a weapon, using the heavy desk to block Volkov's access to the controls, then employing filing cabinets and office equipment with brutal efficiency. Jackie's path from the office to the holding area became a gauntlet through a compound transformed into a war zone. Federal agents breached from outside, while Volkov's 30 remaining men attempted to eliminate evidence and witnesses from within. The administrative building became a maze of cubicles and offices that Jackie turned into an obstacle course for. Pursuing guards, he used rolling chairs to take down 3 men, transformed a copy machine into a projectile, and employed the building's own security barriers as weapons. The warehouse section featured heavy machinery and shipping containers that became both weapons and shields. Jackie's fighting had evolved into something beyond traditional martial arts. Tactical planning combined with environmental mastery and technological integration. He used security cameras to track enemy movements, turned the compound's alarm system against the guards, and employed construction equipment with devastating effectiveness. Every movement served multiple purposes, neutralizing threats, protecting potential victims, and clearing his path to Rosa and Patricia. Throughout the fighting, Jackie could hear other prisoners calling for help from various buildings. He realized that rescuing Rosa and Patricia was only part of his mission. Dozens of trafficking victims throughout the compound depended on him surviving long enough for federal agents to reach them. The sequence represented the culmination of Jackie's action evolution, traditional improvisation enhanced by tactical planning and modern technology. He moved through the compound like a force of nature, unstoppable but never unnecessarily violent. Jackie reached the holding area building, but found it heavily defended by Vincent and 8 guards positioned between him and the prisoners. Vincent, now armed with automatic weapons and prepared for Jackie's tactics, presented the most dangerous opponent of his career. No more games, old man. This ends now. The climactic showdown between Jackie and Vincent erupted in the compound's central courtyard, with the holding area building serving as their dramatic backdrop. Vincent had learned from previous encounters, arriving with assault rifles, body armor, and tactical coordination with his remaining men. This wasn't the bar fight from their first meeting, this was warfare. Vincent's preparation forced Jackie to evolve his fighting style once again, turning the courtyard into a 3-dimensional battlefield featuring shipping containers, construction equipment, and the compound's own defensive structures. Jackie employed every lesson learned from decades of action choreography while adapting to real-world tactical situations. Vincent's size and weapons advantage was offset by Jackie's superior mobility and creative environmental use. But the lieutenant had anticipated many traditional Jackie Chan tactics. The fight represented the story's thematic climax, experience and creativity versus brute force and modern weaponry. Vincent embodied the criminal organization's systematic approach to violence, while Jackie represented the triumph of character and wisdom over pure aggression. Jackie used the compound's crane system to gain vertical advantage, employed shipping containers as mobile shields, and turned Vincent's own body armor against him by using its weight to slow the larger man down. When Vincent attempted crossfire with his men, Jackie used the fuel depot and loading equipment to create smoke screens and diversions. Even while fighting for his life, Jackie maintained his principles, disabling rather than killing, protecting civilians caught in crossfire, showing concern for Vincent's injuries even after victory. This consistency reinforced why Jackie had become a beloved icon. The fight culminated with Jackie using rope, pulleys, and physics to turn Vincent's charging attack into devastating self-defeat. Vincent's own momentum and aggression became the mechanism of his downfall. Vincent lay unconscious, defeated by tactical brilliance rather than brute force. But as Jackie raced toward the holding area, he discovered Volkov had escaped to the boat dock with Rosa as his final hostage. Through the building's windows, Jackie could see the crime boss dragging Rosa toward a speedboat while Patricia hung suspended over a shipping container. Jackie burst into the boat dock area to find Volkov's ultimate trap, a diabolical chess game where every move led to tragedy. The crime boss stood on a sleek speedboat, holding Rosa at gunpoint, her pregnant form silhouetted against the harbor lights. 30 feet away, Detective Patricia hung from a crane over a shipping container filled with a dozen other trafficking victims, their terrified faces visible through the container's barred opening. Welcome to the endgame, Chan, Volkov called out, his voice echoing across the water. In his free hand, he held a dead man's switch connected to both the crane's release mechanism and explosive charges planted throughout the boat. Beautiful setup, isn't it? The physics are quite elegant. I can't be subdued without killing everyone you're trying to save. Rose's defiant eyes met Jackie's across the dock. Even with a gun pressed to her temple, she showed no fear, only determination. Patricia, despite hanging upside down, was studying the crane's mechanism, her tactical mind working on solutions even in mortal peril. Let me explain your impossible choice, Volkov continued with clinical detachment. The crane will drop Patricia and those victims into the harbor in exactly 60 seconds unless I reset the timer. The boat's explosives will detonate if my heart rate drops or if this switch leaves my hand. Try to save one, and the others die. Try to save both, and your heroics trigger the explosives that kill everyone. Jackie moved slowly toward the dock's edge, his mind calculating angles, distances, and timing with the precision of a master engineer. The warehouse's loading equipment, boat rigging, and the harbor itself became elements in an equation that seemed unsolvable. You know what I learned? In all those movies, Jackie said conversationally, his hands visible but his body coiling like a spring. There's always a third option. You just have to be creative enough to find it. Volkov's confident smile faltered slightly. This isn't Hollywood, Chan. This is real physics, real consequences. Choose who lives and who dies, or watch them all perish while you stand helpless. You're right about one thing, Jackie replied, reaching the dock's edge. This is about physics. But you forgot something important. I've been doing impossible stunts my whole career. The crime boss tightened his grip on the dead man's switch. One more step, and everyone dies. Jackie's response was to leap backward onto the dock's crane control platform, his movements triggering a chain reaction he'd been calculating since entering the facility. You made one mistake, Volkov. You assumed I'd play by your rules. What happened next defied every expectation. Jackie had spent his captivity not just gathering intelligence, but preparing the dock's machinery for this exact scenario. The crane Patricia hung from wasn't just a torture device. It was part of an elaborate pulley system Jackie had mentally redesigned during his reconnaissance. Using his understanding of weights, counterbalances, and momentum, Jackie began orchestrating the impossible rescue. The dock's loading equipment became his instruments, the boat rigging his tools, and physics itself his weapon against Volkov's trap. This is impossible, Volkov screamed as Jackie's plan unfolded with mathematical precision. No, Jackie replied, already in motion, this is Jackie Chan. The impossible rescue began as Jackie transformed the entire dock into a massive mechanical orchestra, every crane, winch, and pulley system working in perfect synchronization. His plan required split-second timing and absolute precision. One miscalculation would result in multiple deaths. Jackie had mentally mapped the dock's every mechanical component during his tour with Volkov. Now he put that knowledge to devastating use, turning the crime boss's own infrastructure against him. The main loading crane became his primary tool, but not in any way Volkov had anticipated. Using the dock's secondary winch system, Jackie created a counterweight mechanism that would simultaneously lower Patricia's crane while launching himself toward Volkov's boat. The key was employing the harbor's tidal forces and the boat's own anchor chains as part of the solution. Physics lesson, Volkov, Jackie called out as he initiated the sequence. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. The first phase involved Jackie using his own body weight and the crane's boom arm to create a pendulum effect. As he swung toward the boat, the motion automatically triggered the counterweight system he'd improvised, causing Patricia's crane to lower gradually rather than dropping catastrophically. To Volkov's eyes widened in disbelief as he realized Jackie was somehow defying the trap's logic. This is impossible. The physics don't work. I've been making impossible physics work for 50 years, Jackie replied mid-swing, employing a boat's rigging to change his trajectory at the last possible moment. The sequence combined death-defying stunts with emotional payoff as Jackie used rope work and timing to reach Volkov's boat while simultaneously securing Patricia's safety. His approach came from an angle the crime boss hadn't anticipated, above and behind. Using the dock's own lighting system as camouflage, the collision with Volkov was perfectly calculated. Jackie's momentum disabled the dead man's switch without triggering it, while his weight sent both men tumbling into the harbor. But this wasn't random chaos. Jackie had planned for this exact outcome. The harbor water was shallow enough for Jackie to maintain control while deep enough to cushion their impact. More importantly, Volkov's expensive suit and soft lifestyle worked against him in the water, while Jackie's lifetime of physical training gave him the advantage. Rosa, freed from immediate threat, displayed the courage that had kept her alive through weeks of captivity. Instead of fleeing, she helped Patricia escape from the crane system, demonstrating the same defiant spirit that had made her dangerous to the trafficking operation. "Get everyone out of that container," Patricia shouted to Rosa, even while suspended 30 feet above the dock. The climax showcased not just Jackie's physical abilities, but his understanding of teamwork and trust. He'd created a solution that relied on Rosa's courage, Patricia's tactical knowledge, and the dock's mechanical systems working in perfect harmony. Volkov's downfall came not from violence, but from his own hubris. His elaborate trap became the mechanism of his defeat when Jackie turned the dead man's switch system against him, using the crime boss's paranoia and overplanning to ensure his captured. As federal agents swarmed the dock, Jackie pulled the unconscious Volkov from the harbor, still showing concern for his enemy's welfare even after everything the man had done. 3 weeks later, the federal courthouse in downtown Manhattan buzzed with the energy of justice finally being served. Jackie sat in the witness gallery, watching as Judge Maria Rodriguez delivered the sentences that would dismantle Volkov's trafficking empire piece by piece. Dmitry Volkov received life in prison without possibility of parole, his cold demeanor finally cracking as the judge detailed his crimes against humanity. Vincent Kozlov accepted a 25-year sentence in exchange for cooperation that led to arrests across 3 countries. The corruption extended far beyond anyone had imagined. Lieutenant Frank Morrison lost his pension and received 15 years, while Councilman Robert Hayes faced federal charges that would end his political career permanently. Immigration lawyer Richard Steinberg lost his license and received a 15-year sentence for his role in creating false documentation. But the real victory wasn't in the courtroom. It was in the lives that had been saved and transformed. Over 150 trafficking victims had been freed and connected with comprehensive victim services. The immigrant community that had rallied around Jackie discovered their own power to effect change. Maria Santos's food truck business had expanded into a legitimate catering company employing several trafficking survivors. David Kim opened a second dry cleaning location, providing jobs and mentorship to young immigrants trying to build honest lives. Elena Varga had been promoted to supervisor at her cleaning company and was working with advocacy groups on immigration reform. Her transformation from invisible worker to community leader exemplified how the entire neighborhood had changed. Miguel and Rosa's legal status had been resolved through asylum claims supported by their testimony against the trafficking ring. Rosa's pregnancy was progressing normally, and she was enrolled in English classes while living safely with Elena. Miguel found steady construction work and was saving money for community college, his dreams of education finally within reach. The courthouse proceedings revealed the operation's true scope, an international network spanning from Central America to Eastern Europe that had been generating millions in illegal profits annually. Jackie's intervention had disrupted not just a local crime ring, but a global pipeline of human misery. After the sentencing, Jackie walked out of the courthouse to find dozens of people waiting. Trafficking survivors, community members, families, who had been helped by the operation's dismantling. They didn't want autographs or photos. They simply wanted to express gratitude to the man who had given them their lives back. Rosa approached with Miguel and Elena, carrying a handmade gift that brought tears to Jackie's eyes. The wooden plaque read, "Jackie Chan, Community Hero" in English, Spanish, and Chinese, languages representing the diverse community he had helped unite. "You gave us our lives back," Rosa said simply, her hand resting on her growing belly. "You gave us a future." Jackie accepted the plaque with characteristic humility, understanding that his greatest action sequence hadn't been in any movie theater, but in the real world where courage and community could triumph over seemingly impossible Odds point 6 months later, Murphy's Corner Bar had been transformed into something magical, a thriving community center that served the neighborhood's immigrant population while maintaining its character as a gathering place for honest working people. Under Elena and Miguel's management, purchased with reward money from the federal case, the establishment had become a beacon of hope in Astoria. The renovated space now hosted English classes in the back room, job placement services at corner tables, and legal aid clinics on weekends. Immigration lawyers, the honest kind, held regular office hours, helping people navigate the complex but legitimate path to citizenship. The bar still served its traditional function as a neighborhood gathering place, but now it also represented something more precious, a safe haven where people could build better lives. Rosa worked there part-time while attending community college, her pregnancy showing as she approached her due date. She'd become something of a celebrity in the immigrant community, the young woman who'd survived trafficking and helped bring down an international criminal organization. But she wore her fame lightly, more interested in helping other victims than dwelling on her own ordeal. Miguel had transformed from frightened dishwasher to respected community leader, helping other young immigrants navigate legal employment and education opportunities. His English had improved dramatically, and he'd been accepted to Queens Community College's engineering program. The young man who'd once cowered before criminals now stood tall as someone others looked to for guidance and protection. Jackie officially worked as the bar's maintenance supervisor, but everyone understood his real job was community protector and mentor. He taught self-defense classes to anyone who wanted to learn, helped resolve disputes with patient wisdom, and served as an unofficial counselor for people facing difficulties. His presence had turned Murphy's Corner into the safest place in the neighborhood. The evening crowd reflected the area's diversity. Construction workers sharing tables with college students, elderly immigrants playing dominoes with young professionals, families celebrating birthdays in 3 different languages. It was exactly what America was supposed to be, different cultures blending together while maintaining their unique identities. That a new customer entered the bar, a young man who immediately started harassing other patrons and demanding money in a scene that mirrored the story's opening. But this time, the community's response was dramatically different. Regular customers immediately stood up to the troublemaker. Miguel confidently asked him to leave, and Elena called the police without fear of immigration consequences. The immigrant community had learned they didn't have to live in fear anymore. They'd discovered their own strength through standing together, and that strength was more powerful than any individual hero. When the troublemaker refused to leave and became physically aggressive, Jackie simply set down his mop and walked over with that familiar bouncing gait. But before he could act, the entire bar, construction workers, cab drivers, students, and elderly immigrants, surrounded the troublemaker in a display of unified community strength. "This is our place," Miguel said firmly, his voice carrying authority earned through survival and growth. "We protect each other here." The troublemaker left without incident, recognizing he was outnumbered by people who had found their courage. Jackie picked up his mop and returned to work, smiling as he watched Rosa help a new immigrant fill out job applications while Miguel translated. Outside, a small plaque by the door read, "Murphy's Corner Community Center, a safe place for everyone," in 5 languages. As evening settled over Queens, Jackie looked out at the neighborhood he'd helped transform, knowing that real change came not from individual heroics, but from communities finding the courage to stand together. Rosa approached, her hand resting on her prominent belly. "Uncle Jackie, we've been thinking about baby names. If it's a boy, we'd like to call him Jack." Jackie's eyes filled with tears as he realized his greatest role wasn't as a movie star or martial arts legend, but as the man who had helped a community discover its own strength. Through the windows, families shared meals, children did homework, and neighbors helped each other in 5 different languages, a living testament to the power of courage, community, and hope. The last shot would be of Rosa's handmade plaque hanging behind the bar next to photos of all the families they'd helped reunite, while Jackie's voice delivered the story's final message. "In my movies, I always said the best fights are the ones you don't have to finish alone. Turns out, the best life is the one you don't have to live alone either." 1 year later, the autumn air carried the scent of change through Astoria as Jackie walked the familiar streets that had become his true home. Murphy's Corner Community Center buzzed, With activity, the afternoon English class was letting out while families gathered for the weekly community dinner that had become a neighborhood tradition. Rosa emerged from the center carrying 3-month-old Jack Chinsandoval, named after the man who had saved their family. The baby's eyes were bright and curious, already showing signs of the intelligence that ran in his bloodline. Miguel walked beside his sister, wearing the uniform of Queens Community College's engineering program. His textbooks balanced under one arm, while he carried diaper bags with the other. "Uncle Jackie," Rosa called out, using the title the entire community had adopted. Jack smiled for the first time today. "Elena thinks he was looking at your picture behind the bar." Jackie's weathered face lit up as he took the baby, speaking to him in gentle Cantonese mixed with Spanish, languages that represented the child's multicultural heritage. "You're going to grow up in a world where people take care of each other, little one," he whispered. The community had continued evolving in ways that amazed even Jackie. Maria Santos now operated 3 food trucks and employed 15 people, many of them former trafficking victims who had rebuilt their lives through honest work. David Kim's dry cleaning business had become a model for immigrant entrepreneurship, featured in local newspapers as an example of the American dream realized through community support. Elena had been elected to the local community board, her voice now carrying official weight in neighborhood decisions. She'd used her position to establish immigration assistance programs and workplace safety initiatives that protected vulnerable workers throughout Queens. But the most remarkable change was in the children. Kids who had grown up afraid now played freely in streets patrolled by community volunteers. They attended the center's after-school programs, learned multiple languages, and grew up understanding that diversity was strength rather than division. "You know what the best part is?" Miguel said, adjusting his college backpack. "We're not just surviving anymore. We're building something that will last for generations." Jackie nodded, watching young mothers push strollers while elderly immigrants shared park benches with teenagers doing homework. The neighborhood had become what America promised to be, a place where hard work and community support could overcome any obstacle. As evening approached, families began gathering for another community dinner. Jackie handed baby Jack back to Rosa and picked up his ever-present toolbox. There was always something that needed fixing, and Jackie Chan had found his purpose in mending what was broken, not just furniture and plumbing, but lives, families, and communities. The legend had found his greatest role in the most ordinary of places, proving that true heroism wasn't about spectacular fights, but about showing up every day to help others build better lives. If you like the story, please watch another story on our channel and subscribe to the channel.